All right. Because of time, we are really going to rush things. We don't have time, and today we have to finish everything, really. And it is true that we cannot cover all the topics, all the subjects. I'm going to call our next speaker. And to that, I really need to mention that there's one portion of his topic that is going to include some of the people that we should have mentioned anyway in the beginning of this program, that those are the people that have actually inspired us. They have also contributed towards this idea of this kind of gathering that we are having here now. Brother Thandile Kona will come and address us now. We will talk about him also when he's done.
So, many of you may be wondering why I was called to the table. I was asked to give 10 minutes of my time to the two speakers who were here, and I agreed because I think as a failed husband, I'm more in need of marital advice than anyone else. So I decided to allow the 10 minutes to be taken from my time. In addition to that, I was given a long list of names of people to mention, which I'm not going to do, because that's also going to take from my time. So basically, I have 5 minutes or less. So I'm not going to be long. I'm not going to keep you listening for very long. So now, I'm sure many of you know the comedian Chris Rock, the African-American comedian Chris Rock. In one of his comedy shows, in describing the relationship between the African-American community and the broader American community, he says that their relationship is like that, their relationship to America is like that of an uncle who paid your way through college, paid tuition through college, but molested you. So, in listening to that, I found resonance in that. I think our relationship with the broader Muslim community is that a lot of good has been done by the Muslim community towards the indigenous Muslims. But also there's a lot of bad that have been done. But importantly in that analogy is that the relationship between an uncle and a nephew is that of, it's a blood relationship. You cannot segregate from your uncle. So we cannot segregate from our brothers or sisters who, I'm just uncomfortable with the Indian, black, but for the purposes of this discussion, I will use those labels, those identification labels. So we cannot segregate from our brothers and sisters of Indian descent. So that takes out the issue of segregation. My topic is integration or segregation. So that takes care of the issue of segregation. Now with integration, one of the first acts that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did when he returned, on his triumphant return to Mecca from Medina, was to destroy the 360 or so idols that were on the Kaaba or in the Kaaba. So as a precondition to our integration with the broader Muslim community, we have idols to destroy, and there are more than 360 these idols that we need to destroy. Some of these idols that we need to destroy is the idol of racism, the idol of sexism, misogyny, the idol of exclusion, the idol of the cult of the personality, the idol of nationalism, the idol of tribalism, firstly amongst ourselves, before we can go and integrate with the rest of the Muslim community. There are amongst some of us, I've been fortunate enough to interact with many communities across the length and breadth of our country. And the first thing you're being asked when you tell your name, you are asked, are you Umxhosa? I'm not sure if that identity matters as much as my being a Muslim and an African. In my view, at least, the identity that I think matters most is that I am a Muslim and an African. My being Umxhosa is secondary to my being an African. So we need to deal with those idols first amongst ourselves. Yes, I know I have less than 5 minutes. Thank you. So the idols that we need to deal with first are the idols that I have mentioned that we need to deal with first amongst ourselves. That's a precondition to integration. But also, in Steve Biko writes to SRC presidents in 1978 and says to them that black people are tired of being spectators. Okay, I'm paraphrasing, of spectators in a game that they should be playing. Now, the affairs of the Muslim community should be the affairs of the Muslim community, not the affairs of the Indian Muslim community. And they should be handled by the Muslim community, by everyone who calls him or herself a Muslim. So therefore, we need to say to our brothers, family, that yes, you are inviting us to the table, but we're going to steal advice from Steve Biko and say to you that let's first clear the table. Because now you're inviting to a table that has already been set, you're inviting us to assimilate, you're inviting us to become prototypes, or I'm looking for the right way. No, not stooges. Not stooges. I hear someone say stooges. But you're inviting us to become something that we're not. You're inviting us to forgo of our ancestors, to forgo of our traditions, to forgo of our cultural beliefs. You're inviting us to your cultural beliefs, because some of the things that we've been invited to embrace are not necessarily Islamic. They are cultural beliefs. So what we need to do, therefore, is to tell our brothers and sisters on the other side, or the Indian and the Malay communities, that yes, we are open to the idea of integration, but let's first clear the table, and then let's set the table together, and then we can sit down as equal partners and talk about the way forward as a Muslim community.
You must continue the presentation, it's fine.
Okay, it seems that I've been given more time to cover.
I say finish your time. You don't have to.
Okay. The powers that they have spoken. So let's move on then. So this road that we're on, brothers and sisters, is a road that was paved by a lot of people through sweat, through tears, through pain, through suffering, and through hardship. And when I mention those things, I remember people like Imam Isa al-Sepe, who spent a large part of his life doing this kind of work, paving the road forward. I remember people like that mad Sheikh woman whose madness blazed the trail for us. I remember people like Auntie or Mariam Baduli back in Kwanobushe, women who opened their homes for Muslims when they had no place to go. I remember Umama Zuleika, or Auntie Zuleika Muhammad, the wife of the late Uncle Fakir Muhammad, who opened her house to indigenous Muslims when many in her community frowned on that. They would come into her house and we would be sitting there having whatever we were having, and they would say Assalamu alaikum to everyone of Indian descent and say hi to all the Africans who were sitting there. But over and over again, Uncle Fakir Muhammad, who was blind by the way, but who could give you directions to any place in Udneg or PE, and who would tell you about the latest news in the newspaper, but he was blind, So I remember Uncle Fakir Muhammad insisting over and over again that we come. And would tell everyone who come into his house that if you're going to say Assalamu alaikum to me, these are our brothers, say Assalamu alaikum to them. So we remember people like that in this event. We are standing on their shoulders. We remember people like Imam Abdullah Harun. What else can I say about him? He paid the ultimate price for his involvement, with the Kafirs. He paid the ultimate price. And the sad part about it is that his own community betrayed him, sold him out. That's an unsaid truth, unfortunately. We remember people like Isaac Ndombela from Gandla in KZN. Who can forget Uba Dawood Ngwane? Who can forget Dawood Siale? Abdul Malik from Kahiso. Imam Ibrahim from Soweto. Idris Mwelezi from the Free State. Kulambo Kya from Kwanobushe. Who can forget those people? Those are pioneers who paved the way for us to be here today. Bilal Makwehu from Pretoria. Who can forget those people? So I want to say to us here today that, in the trade union movement, we have a song that says, we're not scared. about what we're doing. And I urge you, my brothers and sisters, that do not be fearful with what we are doing. We're not dividing the Ummah. We are not in any way dividing the Ummah, but we're fixing the house. We're fixing the house of Ummah. And in fixing the house of Ummah, we start within ourselves. So I want to say, to extend a hand of friendship in the light of my topic on integration, to extend a hand of friendship to our brothers and sisters, but to warn them as well that the time is gone for African Muslims to come to you or to relate to you as submissive beings. That time is gone. We're here today to say that that time has come to an end. African Muslims or black Muslims are going to assert themselves. They are going to claim the space in the land that is equally theirs as it is yours as well. They are going to claim their space in this land. And as a last resort, if you refuse to treat us as equals, perhaps we may have to go the segregation route. But that is as a last resort. So brothers and sisters, lastly, I just want to say to the organizers, we thank you very much for putting this together. And when I was sitting there, I saw that the representation between men and women is almost equal. That's an achievement on its own. I don't know the last time I was in a conference where there was an almost equal number of men and women. That is very important. Because without our sisters, our mothers, this nation is not going to go anywhere. Thank you very much for listening.